Dear ones, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you this evening the speaker of this evening's talk, the president of Self-Realization Fellowship, Yogoda Satsanga Society of India, Brother Chidananda ji. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Yeah, please sit down, and I will too. Pranams and loving greetings, such beloved ones of God and Guru. I'm so pleased, so happy to be here again at the end of this wonderful week of our 2018 convocation. What a week you've had. What a week. The meditations together, the wonderful kirtan chanting, the classes, the pilgrimage tours, learning and hearing the gems of divine wisdom from our Guru Paramahansa Yogananda, and the joy of fellowship of all of you, all 4,000 divine souls gathered here at this convocation, and what a joy, what a vibration that creates. And look at you, you're shining. You're glowing. Something went right this week. It reminds me when one of the sayings that our Guru loved from the ancient traditions of India, and in fact he said that his own Guru Sri Yukteswar used to quote this often, and it goes something like this. I'll paraphrase. So much comes to mind looking out over this sea of shining faces. Because he said this, he said, if you take a piece of coal, a black piece of coal, and you wash it in water, no matter how long you wash it, it's still going to be that dark piece of coal. But then if you bring it into the fire, if it's embraced by fire, then it begins to glow with light. And so, as Guruji said, that likewise, the person of charcoal mentality can't change his nature while every day bathing in the dark waters of his own ignorant mentality. But he said, when that devotee is baptized in the Guru's fiery wisdom, then he begins to glow with the golden flame of wisdom. He said, when you meet a true Guru who loves God and who is one with God, then by that contact, the darkness of ignorance is banished and you glow with the fire of God. You're the proof of that. You're the proof of that. God bless you. God bless you. What a blessing, what a joy it is, a profound privilege to be here in the presence of our divine gurus, the gurus and guides of this spiritual path of Self-Realization Fellowship, Yogoda Satsanga Society of India. Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, and our own Guru Paramahansa Yogananda. What a blessing. And not just to be in their presence, but to be in their divine family. Each one who's a disciple of this path, each one individually is blessed sheltered, protected, cared for, until that devotee reaches final liberation. Take time to get to know them, each one of them. After meditation, gaze at the image of each of them in turn, reverently chant the name of that great one, feel that responding blessing, that responding vibration, that interchange. And as time goes on, you begin to feel that each one, over the years, each one of those great ones becomes your individual, beloved divine friend, protector, guide, portal to divinity. Each one. Take the time to get to know them. Close your eyes now. Let's just begin tonight and feel that vibratory presence. They're all here. Each one of those great ones is here with us tonight. Feel their presence filling your body, heart, mind, feelings, your thoughts and brain. That vibration fills this hall, and it flows out, touching and embracing all of those who are joining us from a distance over the streaming video. In that ocean of their light, in that ocean of their love, we are embraced. With the eyes closed, lift the gaze to the Kutastha, the Christ consciousness center, the point between the eyebrows. Look into that spiritual eye. That's where we meet the Guru. In reality, you know how when someone is looking at you, when they're staring at you, you can feel it, can't you? Even if it's behind you, someone staring at you, you feel something. And so when you look at God through the spiritual eye, He feels it. He feels you. And in response, you feel or hear His great divine vibration of Om. The eyes emanate a tremendous amount of current. Lift them up, direct them with all of your attention, all of your devotion into that spiritual eye. Focus the gaze there at the Kutastha. In the beginning, it will be dark. Why? Because that spiritual eye, that Christ consciousness center is surrounded, it's covered, it's hidden behind two vibratory forces. One is a veil, a cloud, concealing vibration. And the other is a diverting vibration. As you direct your attention and even the gaze into that Christ center, trying to go straight into it, that force will, in the beginning, will shoot you off to the side, divert your attention. But take that tremendous life current flowing through the two eyes, and with all of your concentration, all of your devotion, burn away that veil, burn away that diverting power. That's what the power of concentration does and the power of devotion. What is devotion? We think it's something we feel. No. That power of devotion that pulls our consciousness into those higher realms through the portal of the spiritual eye. That power of devotion is nothing else but the love of God pulling at our soul, pulling at our attention, pulling at our consciousness. So with that love, with that concentration, with that intensity of yearning, let your whole being flow into that portal there to meet God and the great ones. As you do that, you feel first and then later hear that tremendous comforting vibration of Om, the very presence of God. The great peace, the great comfort, the great sense of security. The Bible tells us, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That is a reference to this great creative power, vibratory power of Spirit. The Word. But it's paradoxical, it's ironic, because when we're in that vibration of the Word, very few words are needed from us, isn't it? Very few words. Hong, saw, hong, saw, hong, saw. Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru. God, Christ, Krishna, Gurus. God, Christ, Krishna, Gurus. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Amen, Amen. That's what I wanted to feel with all of you. You've had a week of classes of instruction. I'm not giving another class. I just want to come here and bring you the love and the joy and the encouragement and the divine blessings of our divine Guru, our great Guru, and to share that joy with you as we near the end of this convocation. And as I said, special greetings and love also to all of those who couldn't make it here physically, but are joining us through this streaming, the streaming video that's, I think, is going out there tonight. I'm told that it was. Let me share with you a letter. This just came a couple of days ago. This is from our group, meditation group, SRF meditation group in Salvador, Brazil. It says, we wanted to share with you that at least 14 devotees from our center will be attending convocation this year, and many more wanted to be there if they could afford it. However, we found a way to be more in tune with convocation. For the third year, our center will be having a satsang week. Every day we'll have meditation, kirtan, and an SRF video. And thank you from our hearts for giving us the blessing of taking part at the Friday evening satsang. We will be sitting at Guru's feet in our temple with our hearts and minds united with those at convocation and other devotees around the world. Even though it will be 11:30 p.m. for us, we would not miss it for anything in this world. All right? Okay. You hear that, Salvador? That was for you. And for all of the others. I singled out that one, but times that by many, many, many in India, in Europe, in South America, in Australia, throughout the United States. Even in Encinitas, I'm told. They're gathering at the temple down there, those that have to be down there getting ready to welcome all of you a couple of days from now. So everybody, one big family. It's wonderful. Now let me also just take a moment here at the beginning to express my profoundest and sincere thanks for all, not just this, but all of the wonderful messages, the sweet little notes, the gifts, the cards, the little gestures of divine friendship that have come from so many of you. As our beloved Ma used to say, now don't take that as a hint. I'm just using this opportunity, if you don't mind, to thank each one of you in person rather than have a letter go out. Thank you for those messages. Thank you for those expressions of divine love, which I know are your heart's feeling for our Guru Dev, and that's where I offer them. That's where I direct them. And also, let me just take a moment to thank you. So many of the letters, so many of the messages, not just during this week, but throughout the past year, it's been very deeply moving and humbling to me, the gestures of support since I was asked to take on this role of the presidency. It was, the only thing I can say about it is that how deeply moving it was as a sign that our Guru Dev has placed in the hearts of all who expressed that and all who wrote the conviction that there is this continuity of his leadership, of his guidance, of his presence in this organization. That's the only thing that matters. He is and always will be the spiritual head of this organization. You know, it was quite a humbling experience. It is a humbling experience to follow in the footsteps, the giant footsteps of those great disciples who sat in this chair in years past. But with his grace and his blessing and the support of all of you, together, this divine mission of SRF and YSS is moving forward, is taking more steps into the next phase of the fulfillment of his divine mission. That's the faith, that's the vision, that's the realization that he has planted in my heart during this past year. Even so, I would much prefer have to walk onto the stage this year, as in years past, from that side, escorting our beloved Mrinalini Mata on her way to be here. All those years when she would come here to share her motherly love and wisdom with all of you. And I know that she is very much with us tonight. I know that our beloved Dayamataji is also here joining in with such love, only the kind of love that a Sangamata can feel for all of Guruji's children, all of Guruji's chelas and devotees around the world. You know, one of my fondest memories was during those years when I used to not only bring her on stage, but then when she was finished, then to offer my arm and support to help her get off the stage and back to the car. And often people would come to me in the hall in the hotel or over the next few days and said, "Why did you remove her from the stage? You should have left her there." Yeah, I agree, I understand. And also, thank you very much. Thank you from all of our hearts for this tremendous step that you've enabled us to take recently with the installation of the new printing equipment, the digital printing equipment that we're going to need for the new edition of the lessons. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a tremendous step forward. Did you ever hear of how Guruji got his first printing press? No, it was 1943 right in the middle of World War II. And let me just share it with you. It's a delightful story. He was talking with a few of the disciples there at the Mother Center and confided to them, he said, you know, I see, in my mind's eye, I see lots of printing equipment. Shouldn't we look into this, take some steps to acquiring it? So the devotees started to investigate, to see what the possibilities were. They found a few initial possibilities, but the first one they found, it was a nice press, but it didn't have typesetting equipment. And so Guruji said, well, I was puzzled. I was unable to decide about the wisdom of acquiring a printing plant, but without a typesetting equipment, big linotype. And so I prayed, Father, I may make a mistake, but you cannot. Please tell me if I should have a press. And then he said, just after that, his attention fell on a newspaper advertisement from a entire printing plant that was apparently going out of business and was offering all the equipment for sale. So the disciples went and checked it out. They brought some other SRF members who were knowledgeable and experienced in the printing industry, and it all looked good. It all looked. It was for sale, and it was for a very bargain price. But then, of course, during the war, everything was rationed. Everything was restricted. There was nothing. There were so many things that could not be done that would be easy in normal circumstances. One of them was electrical wiring, and they said, "Well, we can get the press, but there's no way that you'll be able to get it running. You cannot install wiring. You'll never get a permit." And Guruji said, "But then the inner voice told me, well, why can't we use the organ wires? We have this nice organ in the chapel at Mother Center." And they called the electrician. He examined it, and he said, he pulled out of his toolbox a double plug. He said, "Watch this." Plugged it into the wall, plugged the organ into one, he said he had just the length to run it from the organ to the printing press, and voila, there was the necessary wire. And he said, you're very, very fortunate, because no amount of money would have enabled you to get the permit during these wartime. And then he said of course, the financing was always an issue. Money was tight in those years. And just on the day when the equipment was to be delivered, he said, then an unexpectedly large donation arrived in the mail. So you see, you all you're following in some very divine footsteps, all of you who helped with this new digital printing equipment. And then it was so characteristic and so wonderful what Guruji said about that when he was announcing the printing press to the members. And he started by saying, due to the wartime conditions and a lack of skilled workers, at present the press is only turning out a few small leaflets and letterheads and so on. But he said, as soon as the right workers are acquired, and the big press will be roaring forth hundreds of thousands of leaflets, booklets, magazines, and books to spread the soul awakening message of SRF to the ends of the earth. That was our Guru. And he bequeathed that enthusiasm to all of us, didn't he? Because now we're, in addition to the leaflets, books, magazines, and books, now we add to that audio and video and e-books and digital edition of the new lessons and animated video instruction of the energization exercises, and on and on and on. Okay. Now, most of you remember from last year and the news updates that we've been giving throughout the year that we're getting closer to this release of the new edition of the lessons. I'm not going to say too much about it now, but it's very much my hope that we'll have another special event later in this year. And then at that time, and we'll certainly live stream that for video as well. No going back now. And at that time, we'll give a thorough introduction and guided tour for all of you for the new lessons. You know, there's so much we want to do for all you devotees. I can't begin to tell you that plans are underway. Lessons now are the first priority, but many other things are also being worked on behind the scenes. Just be patient with us. Stay in touch, stay in tune, and we'll see what unfolds over the next few years. And last also, thank you so much. Those of you from the different groups and centers have been sending me invitations. Well, we would love to have you come and visit our group, visit our center in this country, and this one. Well, I'm going to, over the years, as time permits. I'll do my best. What I can tell you right now is that these blessed monks and nuns who have lovingly formed themselves into a staff around me are making a calendar. And they're looking at all of the places. And I have to tell you, I'm as curious as you are as to where I'm going to be sent. But regardless of that also, I look forward during the year to taking several opportunities to connect with all of you this way through video. So it's wonderful. I feel so much that if our Guru were here, he would be using so much of this technology, so much of these opportunities to connect, to, as he said, to reach out, to have that living link between the Mother Center and this far-flung spiritual family of devotees all over the world. So I look forward to that as the time permits. There's so much we want to do because there's also a sense of the tremendous challenges that all of you face in today's world, isn't it? It hasn't been an easy time. And it seems as though, we never get into politics, we never get into that level of discourse, but there's no denying that it seems as though the forces of divisiveness, the forces of discord, the forces that divide people, that tear people apart, have only become more intensified in recent years. And with the economic challenges, the social challenges, everything that changes, it's not easy to be a devotee in today's world. I am in awe of the way you all carry on. We all are in Master's ashrams, and we pray every day. We send forth healing vibrations, healing strength, courage, faith, from the ashrams of our Guru to whatever point around the world where there's receptive devotees. But I just wanted to say this, just to put it into perspective. It's not surprising what we're going through. Because we know from Guruji's teachings, this world, the human race at this point in time, is in an ascending arc. We're on the cusp. We're on the cusp of a whole new awakened age, a more enlightened age. Not all the way enlightened, but more enlightened anyways. We have to stick around for a few thousand years to get all the way there. And I don't think anybody really wants to wait around that long. But the point is that we're at this very interesting phase now where in order for the new forms of consciousness, the new forms of spiritual understanding, the new forms of spirituality, the new forms of living, in order for them to take root on a widespread basis in the human race, well, first the old has to go away. And the unfortunate thing, and what we're experiencing right now, is that it doesn't happen simultaneously. first the old starts to disintegrate. And one of the detrimental effects of that is that as the religion of the darker ages, the dogmatic and lower expressions of religion, of spirituality, of spiritual thinking and spiritual living, as those gradually lose their hold on people because they aren't giving enough. They're not giving that direct experience. They're not giving a scientific understanding and approach to spirituality. So they start to dissolve away. Unfortunately, along with that, a lot of the valuable parts, the morality, the spiritual principles, those also temporarily are eclipsed to some degree. But we're in an ascending arc. And even though there's that gap between the ending of the old and the dawn of the new, each one of you who is here tonight, each one of you who is listening tonight, each one of you who has been drawn to this path of the great ones, of Christ and Krishna, our Param Gurus, and our Divine Guru Dev, Paramahansa Yogananda, these teachings bring us into the new age here and now. There is no waiting. As our Guru said, and I echo with all of my heart, I know that all of you echo too and understand and receive where he said, never doubt, never be afraid. And he said, follow the truth that God has sent through Self-Realization Fellowship and you will be forever blessed. Follow the truth that God has sent through Self-Realization Fellowship and you will be forever blessed. I think each of you who's participated in this convocation had a taste of that this week. And, we talk about how the teachings, especially the practice of meditation, because in meditation, what happens? We get into that consciousness, we get into that transcendent state, even if it's just a little bit, even if there's just a little opening and a little bit of that peace, a little bit of that calmness, a little bit of that divine light filters into our mind, into our feelings, into our hearts. To that extent, we're glimpsing that higher age which is to come. I want to share with you, because it relates to this, and it's profoundly hopeful. Each year we have, for our young devotees, we have these summer youth programs in Encinitas. And so this year, it was a few weeks ago, one of the sisters who was helping to coordinate running the girls program, she sent this description. She said, one thing that struck me about the girls' week is seeing the joy on their faces. All the way from 7-year-old to the 18-year-olds, they seemed to shine with a wonderful radiance. They didn't want to leave at the end of each day, and especially at the end of the week. In fact, she says on the last day, the older girls in the 15 to 18-year-olds, they wouldn't come out of their room. Their parents were there waiting, and the girls wouldn't come out. So parents just had to wait until finally they came. And when they did, it was though the sun was shining through them with such joy in their smiles. It was like stepping into a higher age. The whole campus felt sanctified. Troubles washed away, the world seemed distant, the campus of another realm where truth reigned because God and Guru were so tangibly present. Does that give you hope? It gives me hope. These souls that are incarnating now and taking up this path and these teachings at a young age, it's just profoundly thrilling to see. One of the other girls, a little younger girl, I guess part of the youth program this year was focusing on willpower, and this one girl said that she meditates every day, and when she has free time in school, she finds a quiet place to have at least another meditation time. And in her school, there was a bully, and this bully would tease another girl. And so small, because she was quite small. It turned out she was the smallest in the group. She went up to this bully and said, "Don't tease her, tease me, because I know who I am, and you don't." She was the smallest girl in the group, they said, but that's the confidence, that's the blessing, the strength, the conviction that comes from these teachings. So, my dear ones of God and Guru, I'm sitting here, I feel what each of you has gained this week. I can feel it. And my prayer, the prayer of all of us, is that God and Guru make permanent those gains. That's from the Gita. You remember that verse? Beautiful verse, Sri Krishna, the divine God, speaking to the devotee, and says so beautifully, "To those who meditate upon me as their very own, ever united to me by incessant worship, I supply their deficiencies and make permanent their gains." I supply their deficiencies and make permanent their gains. Incessant worship. That's the way to walk through this world. Whether sitting in our meditation seat, whether cooking or working at a desk or outside, manual work, mental work, whatever it is, where the heart is constantly singing, constantly, incessantly singing in that attitude of worship. Worship is the highest expression of concentration plus devotion. That makes worship. Real worship. I'm not talking about ceremonial worship or outward forms of ritual, but that inner attitude of incessant worship. That's the culmination of concentration plus devotion. And how blessed we are, because that is our path. These Kriya Yoga teachings, these Kriya Yoga techniques that our Guru brought to each of us. As he said, Kriya Yoga plus devotion, it works like mathematics. It cannot fail. Concentration plus devotion. So in thinking about, in a few days, each one of you making your way back to your, I was going to say normal life, but there's really, I think this is really what's normal, isn't it? This is what's normal in the sense of this is what's natural to the soul. Anyways, you know what I mean, going back to your normal life. How to sustain that inner attitude of connectedness, that inner attitude of devotion, of worship? Well, all of these ways, I'm sure each one of you has taken from the classes, has taken from the, perhaps from the meditations, maybe taken a line even from one of the chants that you were over and over again becoming absorbed in during the periods of kirtan, the periods of meditation. You use your willpower, you use visualization, you use any of these mental devices to create and sustain desire, yearning, enthusiasm, and devotion. I'd like to practice one with you right now. This is something that is going into the new edition of the lessons, and so I'm giving you a little preview, something we can practice together. I think you may have gathered by now that the new edition of the lessons, in addition to having the incredible ocean of wisdom and truth and inspiration that's in the current edition of the lessons that all or most of you have studied, this new edition is also going to be amplified and expanded, and so many gems that have never ever been published before from the vast wealth of inspiration that our Guru left with us. This is one of them. So let's practice this together. Guruji says, sit upright in the meditation posture. Relax your body and mind. Throw the breath out. Calm yourself. See that not a stray thought remains in your inner temple. With your heart saturated with longing, pray to the infinite Father, whose eternal living peace breathes through the pores of boundless space. Father, in my sanctuary of silence, the demon dance of restless thoughts has ceased. I have made a garden for thee, decorated with the blossoms of my devotion. Come thou, O Spirit, into this temple of peace. Thou art mine. Naughty or good, I am thy child. Make me realize that thou art mine evermore. Hold on to your silence, feeling the presence of the infinite. Silence is the altar of God. Peace is the temple of spirit. And the joy of meditation is the invoking light in which we see the face of God. Again, relax your body and mind. Do not let your consciousness be pulled down into the muscles. Do not let your mind run away with rowdy thoughts. Stay in the temple of silence, where no motion of muscles, no restless thoughts or feelings dance their demon dance. Father, teach us to receive joy from thy hands, wisdom from thy hands, prosperity from thy hands. But know, O Father, that we want thee first, foremost, and always, all the time. Peace, peace, Om, Amen. Don't you get just a glimpse in those few words of, we talk about the spirituality for the coming awakening age of the global civilization. What a beautiful perception of God. If someone is looking for a way to relate to that spirit and something that leaves aside perhaps the confining or off-putting quote-unquote God that they may have been taught by dogmatic religion. What about this? As we said, the infinite Father whose eternal living peace breathes through the pores of boundless space. Is that a God you can relate to? Is that a God that you can turn to and feel? And in the joy of meditation is the invoking light in which we see the face of God. How beautiful these treasures of divine realization that our Guru has given. We visualize them, we work with these thoughts, we work with these perceptions, and they gradually become our own. But remember this, I can't emphasize this enough. Those prayers, those visualizations, those are just the prelude. Those are just the prelude that you use to get into that inner silence, that you use to get into the spine through the practice of Kriya, through the practice of Hong Sa. Use these powerful techniques. using Kriya, using the Hongsa, using the Om, until it isn't a matter of imagination or visualization, but you actually feel that divine awakening right within you. Don't stop until you feel it. Don't stop until you feel that living presence. That's what Kriya Yoga, that's what the SRF techniques do for you. So often when devotees would write to our Guru or to our beloved Dayamata or Mrinalini Mata and ask, please bless me, please ask God's grace to flow into my life so that things will be a little easier or these obstacles can be overcome. Now that's a very beautiful, it's a very legitimate aspect of the guru-disciple relationship. But I always remember Guruji's his answer that he gave many times, and even if he didn't give it outwardly, the attitude was there. He would assure them, as I assure each one of you tonight, he would say, my grace is there. God's grace is there. Now only your grace is needed. Isn't it? Isn't it? Well, it was somewhat humorous when he would say that, but there's a very, very deep and serious point behind it. Why is our grace missing? Very often it's because of the presence in our consciousness of the destructive force of doubt. Listen to this. Guruji addressed this in one of his talks. He said, talking to each one of you present, he said, many of you think of the impossibility of divine experience, and that's why the divine experience stays away from you. If not the impossibility, well, maybe the high degree of unlikeliness. And that's why the divine experience stays at a distance. He says, never doubt, only say to God, I know that thou art listening to my prayer. He may be indifferent, yes, because your devotion is not strong enough in the beginning, but he can't help listening to your prayer. And Guruji said, now, that's where you doubt, that God doesn't listen to your prayer. But when your devotion will be strong, he goes on, when you'll be able to conceal him in your heart, to hold him within you, he will come to you. He will come to you. And because you give up, calling it a hopeless affair, that's why he doesn't come to you. Because we think it's a hopeless affair. Now, he took it even deeper than that, using an experience from his own sadhana, in his own growth as a young devotee into the world-renowned Guru Yogananda. He said this, he said, first of all, some persons think they will never get salvation because they are afraid they are unworthy of God's favor. They think he's partial only to certain souls. But if you study the lives, Guruji said, if you study the lives of many saints who had been egregious sinners, not just sinners, but egregious sinners, you will see that God totally forgave their erroneous ways. For saints, all right, listen carefully, this is a take home. Saints are those who faced their errors, analyzed them, and then tried to eradicate them. Who faced their errors, analyzed them, and then tried to eradicate them. The most heroic conquerors in the spiritual life are those who have conquered fear of failure and have persevered until they were victorious over the weaker self. Do you hear what he says? They they persevered not in becoming absolutely letter perfect in every spiritual injunction, in every spiritual technique, in every spiritual practice. They were victorious over their fear of failure. Now that's something that we can take, isn't it? Nod your heads, please. And you and everybody in Brazil, nod your heads. Now listen, Guruji said this. He said, many years ago when meditating, I used to think, will I ever get ecstasy? Imagine. He came liberated. But he went through this drama of the evolution of the devotee to show the different steps the little baby steps that we could follow. He said, I used to think, will I ever get ecstasy? I was afraid that samadhi would never come to me. But as soon as I gave up those fear thoughts, it was there. As soon as I gave up those fear thoughts, it was there. I said to myself, how strange. How strange. I was afraid my mind was too restless to find God. When I lost the fear that I would never have God, I found Him. When I lost the fear that I would never find God, I found Him. That's powerful. That's powerful. That's something that when you go into meditation tonight, look inside and you say to yourself, am I holding that divine experience away because I think I'm not worthy, because I think I don't deserve it, because I'm not a Yogananda, because I'm not a Dhyamata? We have to use everything at our disposal to grow out of that, to wipe that away, to throw that out again and again and again. All right, let's do it together. All right, we're going to do another meditation together. Is that all right? Yes. Do you mind that we're not having a class? We're just going to meditate with the. All right. You know, there's a very beautiful chant that we sing in the ashram. Very simple chant. And it goes like this. It goes, in the temple of my heart, God of beauty is now reigning. In the temple of my heart, God of beauty is now reigning. Of my heart, in the temple of my heart, God of beauty is now reigning. So close your eyes, each of us. Visualize in your heart a beautiful temple. I like to start with that magnificent Smriti Mandir on the grounds of our Ranchi ashram. You know, remember what that looks like? That beautiful shrine with the glowing image of Gurudev in the centerpiece. In the temple of my heart. And in that temple, feel that God of beauty is right there. God of beauty is now reigning. What does that mean, God of beauty? Many of you remember it was one of the stories that I just cherished the most from our dear brother Anandamoy, when he talked about one time when he was out with Guruji at his desert retreat in the final years of his life. And he was there working on a construction project, and he said, Guruji came out, he was dictating his commentary on the Gita or one of his other scriptures there. Just came out for a little break. Brother was there working with his tools outside the house. And Guruji just stood there. And Brother Anandamoy, just gazing at him, he said, he revealed to me that glory of God, that Sundara aspect of God. And he said, Guruji's form, his face, just began to get more beautiful and more beautiful and more beautiful. He said, just like someone was turning up the dial with this incredible divine beauty that was just radiating through that liberated form of Paramahansa Ji. He said, I could have happily died right then and there. the glory, the beauty. Feel that Sundara, that God of beauty in that temple you created in your heart. And now take these words from our Guru's own divine experience in the autobiography of a yogi. You remember he was praying to Divine Mother, to that mother aspect of God that was so dear to him. And then all of a sudden she appeared. And the words that he used to describe this, let this become your affirmation. Let this become your visualization. Let this become ultimately your realization. Haloed in splendor, the Divine Mother stood before me. Her face, tenderly smiling, was beauty itself. Always have I loved thee, she said. Ever shall I love thee. Haloed in splendor, the Divine Mother stands before me. Her face, tenderly smiling, is beauty itself. Always have I loved thee, she says to each of us. Always have I loved thee. Ever shall I love thee. You take that and you dwell on it and you feel it and you yearn for it to become more and more real, more and more vibrant, more and more present to your consciousness. And you watch how that fear, that doubt, that conviction that divine experience can never come to me, you watch how that is totally erased. Totally gone in that unconditional eternal love of our infinite Father, Mother, friend, and beloved. You know, the subconscious mind says, I'm really a bad disciple. I don't think I'm going to have that kind of experience. No, counter that. Attack it. Be victorious over it by that visualization, by that conviction of the divine, the mother, the father, the friend, saying to each one of you, as soon as you go inside that temple of the heart, as soon as you go inside that temple of the interiorized consciousness and feel, always have I loved thee, ever shall I love thee. I feel that great love, that unconditional love rolling over each one of your body, mind, and souls, over this room, over this hotel, over this convocation, into the lives of all SRF devotees, all YSS devotees around the world. Feel that, accept that. Embrace that. And we find that it doesn't really matter much what's going on in the outer world. Well, my dear, dear friends and fellow disciples on this path, I wish we were going on for many more days, many more weeks in this convocation spirit, but we can do so. We can do so together. And as I said, there's so much that all of us in Guruji's ashrams, with your help, not just the monastics, but the wonderful lay members who help in so many ways around the world. There's so much that we want to do for each of you. There's so much that we want to do for Master's work. And let's just, for a moment, I'd like to, before we end, acknowledge that where we are today at this beautiful convocation, it really takes basically a small army to put on this event, isn't it? From the monastics who coordinate the whole event and meet with the committee of lay members who throughout the year plan the program and make all the arrangements, and then working out all of the details, and then the ushers and the people who greet you at the pilgrimage tours, and I can't even begin to list them all, the ones that you see and the ones that you don't see. Please join me in giving them our pranams and heart's love. Heart's love and gratitude to all of them. Now let me just close, again repeating a reminder, as these beautiful words of our Guru, he says, follow the truth that God has sent through Self-Realization Fellowship, and you will be forever blessed. Guruji said this, he said, my work is fulfilled when I have awakened in you even the tiniest spark of the love that I feel for my Father. Blessed you are that you are hearing the message divine. Now, we're ending this class, this satsang and convocation. Please just go within. Please feel that he's speaking these words to you. Let them go into deep within your heart, deep within your consciousness. He says, blessed you are that you are hearing the message divine, the message of spirit, the message that solves the mystery of the universe. What fear have you? Cast out all fear. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore when you have touched the great power of spirit, which controls the very forces of creation, all the machinery of the universe. What greater hope could you have? What greater security could you seek than contact of that infinite being who is the essence of all that exists? He is the only harbor of safety from the storms of this world. The Gita says, take shelter in him with all the eagerness of thy heart. By his grace, thou shalt obtain the utmost peace and the eternal shelter. And Guruji says, in him I have found the joy of my life, the indescribable blessedness of my existence, the wonderful realization of his everywhereness right within me. I want all of you to have that. That's the Guru to whom we were drawn. He says that heaven of God's presence is always within you. Find it by Kriya Yoga meditation. And in fearlessness affirm, I am castled in God's presence. No harm can reach me, for in every situation in life, physical, mental, financial, spiritual, I am protected in the fortress of God's presence. Let's affirm this together. Let's fortify ourselves with that divine vibration, with that divine wisdom, with that divine conviction. In fearlessness affirm, I am castled in God's presence. I am castled in God's presence. No harm can reach me. For in every situation of life, physical, mental, financial, spiritual. I am protected in the fortress of God's presence. No harm can reach me. No harm can reach me. No harm can reach me. For in every situation of life, physical, mental, financial, spiritual, I am protected. I am protected. I am protected in the fortress of God's presence. In the fortress of God's presence. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru. God bless you, God love you, God sustain you until we meet again. Joy and love to all of you. Every day, each one of you is in the prayers and in the meditations of all of our monks and nuns and all of our ashrams. It's our divine privilege to reach out to you, to send out silently but tangibly those vibrations of that each one of you has felt during this convocation, each one of you who visited one of Guruji's ashrams, one of Guruji's shrines. Just know that every day that flows out to each one of you. In our prayers, in our meditations, it's a joy and a privilege to serve each one of you. God love you. God bless you. Jai Guru. Until next time, and until the next video.